Yesterday on April 15th, there was a big race called the Boston Marathon. It's a famous race and it happens every year since about 1897. It's famous, only the top runners can run in this race. You have to qualify. So every year, about 50,000 people gather for this race. It's a 26.2-mile run, and it's in the town of Boston, which is not a big town, so the track has to loop around the city. This year, about 27,000 people were involved in the race. And it takes place on a day that they kind of broke away from the English, so it's a memorial to that day. Many people take off work to gather and watch the race, so it's a big event in Boston. So many waves had crossed the finish line and were celebrating and happy they did it. And then about an hour later, at about 2 minutes and 45 minutes into the race, many people had not yet finished. They were still coming through, and a bomb went off near the finish line. And 12 seconds later, a second bomb went off again. The runners were advised to run away from the finish line and not finish the race, and they blocked off that area. People were dropping to the ground. It was terrible. 3 people have died so far, and about 44 are seriously injured. It might have changed, but that's the last I heard. And one of the boys that died was 8 years old. I'm not sure how old the other 2 were. And many are in critical condition. Maybe more have passed away since then. We'll have to see. I'm not positive. I know a lot of people lost legs. About 10 people so far have lost limbs. It's terrible. One of the good things is near the finish line, they had a tent set up with doctors and nurses in case you were injured or sick. You went to the tent to get help. So when the bombs went off, all the medical workers were running out to the street to help people, bringing out wheelchairs. And then thank God they were there, because when the bombs went off, people just scurried. But what happened was they dropped all their belongings, like backpacks and bags. They abandoned it on the street. So now the police thought, oh shoot, now we're going to have to check every bag. So they brought in a sniff dog, and he had to go through everybody's belongings and that were on or around the street. Trash that were near buildings, the dog had to go through that. In corners of alleys between buildings, they have to make sure no spots could be left unchecked. Many people were making phone calls, panicking. So many phone calls were made that day, like, where's my friend? Where's my family member? So what they did was they set up an area. So if you were okay, you went and put your name down. So if anybody called and was looking for you, your name would be on the list that you are okay. It was like a contact list. And then they found 2 bombs that had not gone off. And it was not far from the 2 that had gone off, just down the street. So police investigators are analyzing these bombs, trying to figure out how they were made, where they're from. It was awful. And the bombs were not big, they were quite small. They had a C4 in them, which caused them to explode. It was a simple bomb, but it was made meticulously. They're not sure if it was made in another country, or if it was made in the United States. They're not sure yet. President Obama went on TV and gave a speech, and he told everyone to just please be patient, don't panic. We're going to find out what happened. We're going to capture the person that was responsible for this. I'm sure of it. They had not yet figured out who is responsible for this, but they're going to be questioning many people. If you have any information yourself or pictures from the race and you want to send them in, anything will help. So it's important that we get that information so we can look at it. They had surveillance cameras set up at the Boston Marathon. So they're going to look through all the cameras and the people walking the streets that day. Before the bomb was set off, they're going to look at call records to see if any calls were made. See if any calls were made to another country. The person that they're looking for has a backpack on, so it's going to be kind of a process of elimination. Anyone that they suspect, they're going to ask if they were involved in any way. The police, the FBI in that town are very devoted to this case. Now the FBI and the federal government, immigration, the state police, they're going to go through that apartment, who they think did it, and see if there's any evidence in that apartment that may lead to us catching the person that was responsible for this. The FAA said that there is absolutely no flights that will be going out and anytime soon until this person's caught. Cities like Chicago, New York City, San Francisco, LA, they're being very protective, and very precautious. The White House in Washington, D.C. is completely blocked off. Nobody is allowed on the premises. The city of Boston is basically on shutdown. Nobody is allowed to walk the streets. But if there's any more information that we find, I will be sure to let you know.